It has been a hot minute since I have been dropping new episodes on the Happiness Happens podcast. I can't believe how a 2 week break literally turned into like months and months and months of taking a break from my podcast. But I'm really excited to share with you that I am officially back. We are back with brand new episodes of the Happiness Happens podcast. So many incredible things to come with this new relaunch, is what I'll call it. Be sure to check us out on Instagram at Happiness Happens Podcast and on TikTok as well at Happiness Happens Podcast. There's so many things coming that I cannot wait to share with you. And I'm so stoked for you to be a part of this journey. And I do have to say how grateful I am that you are here, that you're tuning into this episode, that you're sharing it with someone you love, and that you are joining me on this new ride with brand new conversations, whole new direction, and lots of intentional conversations about happiness. We are getting into the nitty gritty from this point onwards with all these brand new episodes that are coming your way. So I just really wanted to take a second to thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your care. And I also wanted to preface the fact that I'm actually recording this at a separate time than I recorded the episode you're about to listen to. It's actually been a couple months in between that initial recording. I recorded that towards the end of 2022, and it is now into 2023. So a lot has shifted and a lot has changed. And I just wanted to share that with you as you're listening to the episode that we're about to dive into, because it's a beautiful reminder of how life can continue to grow, can continue to evolve, can continue to transform and to change as we are being intentional with showing up for ourselves every single day. So while I may not be sitting in the exact same place that I was when I recorded that episode, I feel way more clear, way less heavy, way more light, and just really excited to dive into all things happiness. I did feel it was important to share with you that conversation in that episode. It's a solo episode, but I did feel like it was really important to share it with you because there's so many nuggets of wisdom in there that I know you're going to be able to take and implement into your life every single day. So with that, let's get into that part of our conversation. Please reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're excited for new episodes and excited for me to be back on the airwaves with this show. I have so much good to share with you, and I want to hear it right back from you. So with that, let's get into this conversation. I adore you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and let's roll. Where have I been? Where has the content been? Where has the show been? I am so sorry for ghosting you on the Happiness Happens podcast. I absolutely, completely, 120% ghosted you as a listener of my podcast. And for that, I am so sorry. But I'm back in a different way, and a way that I'm not 100% sure how it's going to evolve exactly, but I'm really excited to be creating from this space again. I will caveat this entire conversation. I have absolutely no idea what I am going to share on this episode with you today. And so while I do and share where I've been, what I've been doing, and why I haven't been here, I hope that you can hold some space for this conversation and that you take away some really key things that you can implement into your own life. So the first question is, where have I been? Well, I've been here. I have been here. I have been behind the scenes, and I have been creating for my business, growing my business, and I have been focusing my energy on my clients, my client work, and growing my agency. If you're new around here and you've never heard one episode of the Happiness Happens podcast, well, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today. And I'm excited for you to be on this journey with this incredible community, because it really is an absolutely incredible community. Now, that said, you may have no idea who I am. My name is Simona, and I'm a podcaster. I've been in this space since 2018. I also own and run a podcast production agency out of my home, where we launch, grow, and monetize podcasts for entrepreneurs in the health, wellness, mindset, and entrepreneurship spaces, business spaces. So that said, that's a little bit about me on the professional side. But on the personal side, I sometimes feel like I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I feel like life has really handed me quite the whooping in the last few years. I feel like I get to a spot where I feel good and I feel excited and I feel happy and joyful and purposeful. And then something happens and something comes up and I am completely feeling like I'm back where I started. Now, the thing is with that mindset is I'm not actually back where I started because I have years of growth and personal development and healing that have taken place in that time span. So I haven't really been going back to square one, even though it feels so deeply like I am going back to square one every single time. I truly feel like the last few years have been the most growth that I've ever done in my life. And I know that it's just the start. Now, I think you could be listening to this and saying like, oh my gosh, but aren't you exhausted? Yes, I am. I'm very exhausted. I'm exhausted from feeling sad. I'm exhausted from feeling unworthy. I'm exhausted from feeling not enough. I am exhausted from crying about things that I shouldn't, quote unquote, be crying about. I am exhausted from putting my attention and energy in places that maybe it's not being best served or best used. And I'm exhausted from being on a healing journey for so many years. What I've learned, though, is that healing journey is the journey. It is life, right? This is how we grow in life. This is how we move through life. This is how we learn who we are as human beings and what we want to bring to the table every single day. And I think that I can speak so easily and so off the cuff about this because I've been going through it. And when I say I've been going through it, I have been going through it. If you've been following me on social media, you may have no idea, to be honest with you, which is exactly why social media is the worst sometimes. It's an amazing platform, right? Social media is an amazing platform to have, but you never get an in-depth look into somebody's life the way that you would if you pick up the phone and call or send a text message or try and be present in their lives every single day. So I have to say that what I've learned the most in the last little bit is how anxious of a person I actually am and how that anxious attachment style bleeds into every single level of my life, my relationships, my personal relationships, my business relationships, everything. It really impacts every single area of my life. And it's frustrating because I never thought that I was an anxious person. I never thought I was a needy person. I never would categorize myself as that. And I also never would have categorized myself with mental health struggles ever. That's not something that I ever would have labeled myself as, if you want to use a label. And I don't know if this is out of ego or out of fear or if, things in my life were just kind of great, before I entered the world of personal development. Everything seemed fine on the outside, right? But then you get to the point in your life when you're kind of like, I don't really know what to do next. I don't know why this doesn't feel like enough anymore. What am I missing? What is feeling unfulfilled within myself? What am I missing that isn't allowing me to feel that genuine contentment and that genuine joy every single day? So that is what set me on this quest for like the last few years of trying to figure out, who am I? What am I doing here? What is my purpose here? Am I meant to be doing the Happiness Happens podcast? What is the Happiness Happens podcast? Why do people care about the Happiness Happens podcast? I've questioned every single thing and every single facet of my life, my relationships, my business, everything, every single thing I have questioned in the last few years. And I don't have clear answers. And I think that becomes even more frustrating because I don't have those clear answers. And it's like, you would think that if you were on this journey and you were going through it and you were doing all this stuff and doing all this work, that eventually you would get to a place where you're like, okay, cool, we figured it out. This is the next step. This is the next logical thing. This is what we're going to do. But you know what happens? The universe rolls in the way it does, as we all know, and it puts massive blocks in our lives. And I don't want to look at them as bad, or I don't want to even look at them as blocks because I don't think they're bad things. I just think that they are so absolutely frustrating, because it's like you get to that one level and you're like, okay, this is starting to feel good again. I'm going to be okay again. I don't feel like I'm drowning anymore. I don't feel like I'm living in this like black pit of like nothingness anymore. And then something happens and it sends you right back into that place. And it took me such a long time. So about a year ago, I was diagnosed with high functioning anxiety. And I think I've mentioned it a little bit on the podcast before, but I honestly don't remember. And what's been so hard about that is trying to understand that who I am as a person is not my anxiety, if that makes any sense. And learning to come to terms with that and how that anxious attachment style presents itself in my life every single day, worrying that I'm annoying people or frustrating people, or, people don't want to talk to me anymore, or people are annoyed by me, or people, all these different things. That's one way it presents itself. Another way it presents itself is overworking, burning myself out, taking on all of the projects, all of the clients, all of the things, because I feel like it fills that feeling that things are going to leave. I have a huge trigger, past trauma, all this stuff. Like everything feels like it's always going to leave. And what makes it so hard to live in an anxious place like that is you genuinely don't know what is reality and what isn't. And I think that it always gives you an opportunity to take a look at something from a different side if you want to. But I think you need to have enough awareness to know that there could even be a distinction between the two. So, for the last few years, I've kind of been walking through my life, making decisions out of anxiety and not having faith and trust in the universe, in God, in spirit, that things are going to be okay and that they do work out the way that they're meant to. But it's that piece of really testing my trust and really testing my patience and really testing all kinds of things in my life and not understanding why I do the things that I do and how it completely kiboshes every single other area of my life. So you make a decision out of fear and anxiety, right? And you make a decision out of that place of not feeling enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling purposeful enough, not feeling all of the things. So you make a decision out of that place, fine, cool. But what is the impact of that on your entire life? How does that impact your relationships, the words that you say, the messages that you send or you don't send, the business agreements that you do or don't do, right? And then on the other side of that, how much of that is me projecting my shit, pardon my French, sorry, my stuff onto somebody else, right? For them to take now and for them to carry and for them to hold, maybe when they didn't have the capacity to do so anyways. But it's almost like this whole anxious attachment style, I can't even help myself. And I think that's so extremely frustrating, is I'm not used to being someone who's not in control of all of the things. And so not being in control is very hard for me. I like to control things. I like to know the outcomes. I watch movies and I Google the end because I want to know that it ends up okay. I want to know how much hurt and pain and suffering that specific character is going to have to go through in order for them to get to the other side. And I kind of translate that to my life a little bit too. I'm like, how much pain and how much stuff do I need to go through in order to feel okay again? And it's realizing that, the way that I feel, the way that I've been showing up in my life really has nothing to do with anybody else. It has everything to do with me and who I am as a person, who you are as a person, right? If you're relating to this right now. And I think a lot of the times, and I know for myself, I know this is true, this anxious attachment style has been created in my life. I don't know if it's for a purpose. I mean, yes, I do know it's for a purpose. Everything is for a purpose in life. And I'm still trying to figure out where it comes from. And this idea of perfectionism and having to show up every single week and being perfect on air, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? Like being perfect on this podcast. And, I have a podcast about happiness. I should know exactly what it means to be happy. And the truth is, this year has been an absolute gong show. I have never been unhappier in my life. And I've also never been happier at the same time. what a paradox and what a way to live, to be honest with you. It's confusing. It's hard. It makes me sad. It makes me happy. It makes me joyful. And it makes me honestly question everything. What's also equally as frustrating about this is I feel like I already went through my dark night of the soul moment. Like I feel like that, years ago, back in 2018, 2018, I feel like that was my dark night of the soul moment. And I don't know if it was anymore. Or is it like, do we just have these continuous dark night of the soul moments, right? Do we have these continuous things that come up every single year or like randomly every single month? And like, how does that translate into your life every single day? So this is more of like a rant, I'm guessing. I think now that I'm chatting and on here, and I just feel like I wasn't able to show up in the way that I wanted to on this podcast because I couldn't. I didn't have the emotional space. I didn't have the capacity to do that. I wasn't able to come on here every single day or every single week or every single recording or whatever it was. Not every single day. I don't come on here every single day. We know that. But I wasn't able to do that because I wasn't able to have conversations about what it means to live your life on purpose when I felt like I was living such a lie myself. And when it felt like I was just doing things and showing up and putting on this mask and fake persona about how wonderful everything is in my life and how great everything is. And there's no struggle and there's no pain and there's no challenge, when it couldn't be further from the truth. All there has been, it feels like, is pain and struggle and challenge. And I'm sitting here, I'm recording this. It's actually Christmas Eve. I'm recording this today of 2022. And what I'm realizing is how much of that pain and struggle and fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, anxious attachment styles, like how much that is so important to go through as we're going through our healing journey. And that it's not a destination, and it's not about showing up in perfection, and it's not about showing up and being like, my life is so perfect, let me lead you and help you with yours too. No, the purpose is growing together. The purpose is understanding the layers and how those layers have impacted our lives so deeply. And then what do you do when you get to the layer? Right? How do you start to peel back all of the pieces and create from a space of love and be in that space of gratitude and being able to look at hardships and look at pain and look at the messy parts of life and be grateful for them, and listening and learning how to listen to your inner voice and to what your soul is telling you, what your higher self is saying, and being guided in that way instead of being guided by ego and fear and, again, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone, fear of loss. Like, those are all things that are so deeply rooted in who I am that have all been bubbling up to the surface in the last year. Why is it when this person doesn't reply that I feel anxious? Why is that such a trigger for me? Why? Or why do I feel so incomplete? What's missing? And what I feel like and what I know is missing is that faith, is that self-trust, is that ability to look at really hard situations and be okay with where they are, knowing you're going to get through and you're going to make it through and it's going to be okay. And so what I've done in the last little bit, and I'll leave you on this thought here because I do want to share how I imagine the podcast to evolve, but also the Happiness Happens brand to evolve in the next little bit. And the biggest thing that has come out of all of this is I've been writing. I've been writing a lot. And I feel like I want to share some of this writing with all of you. So I will be over on the Happiness Happens podcast Instagram page and sharing some words and thoughts. And I've been calling them lines, to be honest with you. I have a note in my phone, and it just is called lines. And I just write lines and lines of things of how I feel and what I'm going through and what I've been experiencing. And I think I'm ready to share them all with you. Not all, some, most, I don't know, we'll see. I think that there could be a book of some kind brewing behind the scenes. If you've been around for a while, you know that there is Happiness Happens merch as well. I don't sell it online. I sell it, out of my home. And there's so much more that I want to grow into and evolve into. I've always wanted to take the Happiness Happens brand and really make it that lifestyle brand. And I am not kidding you guys. I have been thinking about recording this podcast episode for at least a month now. And I haven't even had the confidence to pick up the mic and be honest. And also, I just couldn't. And I think that's a beautiful place of being in awareness of what we can and what we can't do and what we are committed to doing and what we are not. I think it's important to have that awareness. So let me leave you with this today. It is okay wherever you are in your journey today. You don't need to have the answers. You don't need to know. You don't need to apologize for who you are. You don't need to apologize if you are an anxious attachment style person like me. You don't need to say sorry for things that you're not sorry for. But you do need to be kind, and you need to look inwards, and you need to get through the ego into your own emotion and how you feel and what is really the driving force of that, and how do you want your life to look like over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, something I've never even given any thought to. I've never thought about my life past the moment that I'm living in it. And it's a hard place to be because you get to the spot and nothing feels like enough because you're in that place, but you never envisioned that you would be in that place because you never even gave yourself the chance to have a dream. So that's where I'm sitting right now. I'm learning how to dream. I'm learning how to create things from purpose and from love. And I'm learning how to show up in my life exactly as I am, unapologetic, and really, I don't care anymore. If someone gets mad at me for how I am, it is what it is, right? And so with that thought in mind, let this be your permission slip today. You start your year off the way you want to start it off. You be the best version of you every single day. You don't apologize for who you are because who you are is beautiful. And you also take accountability for the things that maybe you do to hurt other people. How do you hurt other people, right? That's a whole other topic. We need to take ownership for who we are. We need to take ownership for our emotions. We need to take ownership for the things that we do and the things that we don't do. And we also need to take ownership for the goals that we reach and the ones that we don't, right? At the end of the day, we are our person. And while we have other people in our lives that love and support us dearly, we need to be good from the inside out first. Prioritize our own healing and our own journey and showing up as our own authentic selves. I hate that word because I honestly believe that authenticity is so overused. But how I describe authenticity is literally this podcast episode. And that's that. So thank you for tuning in. Welcome back to the Happiness Happens podcast. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the show. Listen into some of the past conversations, and I look forward to having more content on here more consistently. I have some amazing interviews that I need to share with you all that have been recorded that I'm really excited about. And truthfully, I am just so grateful for you. Thank you for holding space for me for this conversation. Thanks for being here. I am so honored to have this platform to be able to reach into your heart, reach into your soul, and share a little bit of love and a little nugget of wisdom that you can potentially take with you on your day every single day. So with that, remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.